After taking it out of the box, you'll see exactly what you see here. We have the rail, complete with a metal chain inside. The rail comes in 3 pieces, which will need to be assembled later. Of course, the components needed to connect it into a single unit are included as well. We have the motor with a built-in controller, bolts and pins for mounting everything to the structure, an emergency release cord and 2 remote controls. And of course, all the other necessary components for installing this on your garage door. I want to emphasize that everything you need to install it is included here, and if you have any parts left over, it simply means you haven't completed the installation correctly. The only part that might be left is this bracket, but that will only happen if you're lucky enough to be able to attach the entire rail directly to the ceiling. Otherwise, you'll probably need it to suspend the rail using some additional flat brackets to a higher ceiling. There are also elements here that stabilize the rail in the middle of its structure so it doesn't bend during operation. And I'm saying this on purpose too. That's because you can find various opinions online claiming that something is missing here. No, everything you need is really here. Now let's move on to how to assemble it all together. To assemble the rail, we use the connecting elements that you saw earlier on the rail, laid out side by side in 3 sections. To assemble it correctly, we insert the chain into such an element, and you need to pay attention to this protrusion. Right here at this spot, as well as the notch that is located in one of the rail sections. The protrusion must fit exactly into the notch. If we were to put it on the other way, like this, then the rail won't assemble for us. We have to put it on so that it fits here into this notch. We assemble the rail precisely. The second section of the rail is now in its place. Everything is in its place. The protrusion, the notch, everything fits together. The rail is assembled and quite rigid at this point. The next step in the assembly is to attach the bracket to the front of the rail and simultaneously mount the chain tensioner on it. The tensioner is this device here with a nut and a spring. We assemble it like this. Unscrew the nut, remove the spring and put the component in place. Attach it to the rail and insert the pin through it, the threaded one. Then carefully put on the spring and then the nut securely. This component is used for adjustment. The tension of the chain inside the guide bar, and an important point, the spring must be on the outside of the bracket. If it were inside, it simply wouldn't serve its purpose. Sometimes it may turn out that the factory length of the guide bar is too long and it will need to be shortened. You can then cut an appropriate piece from any of the 3 parts of the guide bar, but the easiest way is to do this. Either from the first section near the mounting bracket or from the last piece where the automatic mechanism is installed. So once we cut the appropriate section of the guide bar to shorten its total length to the desired size, the way we need it, we also have to shorten the chain. And here the rule is simple. We shorten the chain by twice the length by which we shorten the guide bar. So for example, if we cut 50 centimeters from the guide bar, we need to shorten the chain by 1 meter. How do we do that? It's a very simple matter. On the chain, near the carriage that moves inside the guide bar and pulls the trolley, which in turn pulls the gate, there are connectors, just like the ones in bicycle chains. We remove the connectors, cut out the appropriate number of links from the chain to remove a section of the desired length. Then we put the chain back on, fasten the connector, and that's it. After assembling the rail into one piece, and if necessary, shortening it and the chain inside if needed, we have to install the component that will pull the entire gate. This component will be responsible for moving the whole gate. Inside the rail there is a plastic carriage like this. It's made of plastic, and in the set of parts supplied with the operator you'll find exactly this element. It also serves for emergency release in case of a power outage. We need to install it in such a way that this pin, which is released by this lever here, fits into its place in the carriage inside the rail. We put it in its place. And that's it. We secure it with the 4 screws provided in the set. Tighten the screws and it's done. See how the unlocked gear works. When the control lever is set in an upright position, we are then able to move quite freely. Our carriage can smoothly pass through this specific metal element on the chain that securely locks it into place. Conversely, when we carefully lower the control lever in this particular direction, our carriage will then firmly lock onto this very same element. And at this point, it can no longer be moved. Unlock it, it moves freely, lock it, and you can't do anything with it anymore. Next, we need to mark the center of the gate so that we can mount the brackets. Here on the wall, there will be a bracket holding the guide rail, while lower down on the gate, there will be a bracket for attaching the arm. It's important that the bracket for the guide rail is mounted in such a way that there is at least 2.5 cm of free space between the open gate and the guide rail. Once we've marked the center, we attach the brackets to the wall and to the gate. Once our mounts are ready, the next step is to attach the rail to the wall bracket. We use the M6 screws provided in the set for this. After we've attached the rail to the wall, the next step is to mount the operator onto it. The operator has a spline shaft on the drive axle and we need to align it properly to the drive wheel located here inside our rail. To attach the operator to the rail, we use these clamps provided in the kit. We fasten them with M6 flange nuts. In the next stage, it's time to mount our operator and rail to the garage structure. The idea is to secure our entire rail together with the operator at this point and attach it to the ceiling. For this purpose, there's a clamp provided in the set. It should be placed here near the operator and grip the rail from underneath. Meanwhile, with this angle bracket, we can screw it in from above. If any extension elements are needed, for example, because the ceiling is higher, if the operator together with the rail is to be mounted directly against the ceiling, that is, if we have a flat ceiling at such a height that we can screw the operator directly into it, then this element becomes unnecessary. That's why I said at the beginning that this is basically the only thing that might be left over after correctly installing the operator. In our case, it will be more convenient to use elements that can be bought at hardware stores because the distance from our rail to the ceiling is quite large, so we will need extension elements. And the most convenient solution will be to use these brackets, which we will screw in here. Look, they will simultaneously hold the rail so it can't slide upwards, and thanks to them we'll be able to extend it properly to reach the higher ceiling. Once we have the elements prepared to mount our rail and the opener to the garage structure, then using a level, although it's not strictly necessary, but of course it looks better when everything is straight, we set the level of our rail and mark the points where our bracket should be attached, in this case to the garage ceiling beam. More or less at this spot is where the center of our rail falls, between the opener and the garage door. If you pay attention, because the rail is made up of several elements, it slightly rises upward at this point. In our case, this is the range of movement, about ½ centimeter up and down. To stabilize the rail so it doesn't move here, this particular element is included in the set. It's not meant to be installed by the opener and used to attach the rail to the ceiling. It's specifically for stabilizing the rail here in the middle. We install it like this. As you can see, thanks to its design, the trolley can pass through the middle of the rail here. It won't block it in any way. And now all that's left is to use a similar method as when mounting the opener itself. Attach our mounting element to the ceiling beam, and that's it, we're done with this part. The entire rail at this point will be rigid. It's done firmly and solidly, nothing bends, nothing moves around freely. So now it's time to connect our gate with the trolley that's here in the guide rail. The trolley is currently somewhere toward the middle of the guide rail. And to make things easier and not mess around with the opener, for example, by moving it with the chain using the actuator or by lifting the gate, so that we can align it with the holes for the pins here, we simply unlock the trolley and move it by hand with a finger toward our door leaf. To connect one to the other, we use the hockey stick that's included in the set. It consists of two parts, the bent element together with a straight flat bar. It is fastened with two M8 bolts with flange nuts. We attach the hockey stick with the bent side facing the gate, and for this we use a pin, which is also included in the set. It comes with a clip. It's exactly the same process with the trolley. The same pin, the same clip. After installing the operator, the last thing we need to do is leave the gates permanently in the open position. Gates are often equipped with elements that lock them in the closed position. So we need to make sure they remain open at all times so they can move freely. Only the operator should be holding them. If for some reason this latch cannot be unscrewed, for example, someone wants to have the option to lock the gate in case of a long trip away. Then we need to make sure that during normal operation of the operator, this element remains constantly unlocked. Mechanical installation. We have now completely finished it. The gate is engaged with the carriage and the carriage is engaged with the chain in the guide rail. At this point, the gate can no longer move on its own until we disengage it or until it is moved by the operator. At this point, all that's left is to program the functions in the operator. We'll start by programming the gate's limit positions, meaning the spots where it should stop when open and closed. Right now it is somewhere between these two positions. To set the gate's stopping points for opening and closing, we use the set button. This puts us into the operator's parameter programming mode. We hold down the set button until the number 1 appears on the display. When the number 1 appears on the display, that's our signal that we are now programming the stopping point. The gate is open, so we move it electrically. The operator will now move our gate and we set it at the position where we want it to stop when open. Pressing the UP button moves it up, meaning the gate will open. Pressing the down button moves it down so the gate will close. This is the position where we want our gate to stop when open. Once we've set it, we confirm with the SAP button. A 2 will then appear on the display, which means that we are now programming the position where it should stop, closed gate. And in the same way, we use the up and down buttons to move the gate up and down. We move it to the closed position. The moment the gate is closed. We need to adjust this very carefully. The point is for the operator to gently press the gate against the frame when it is closed, but not too hard. We also don't want to overdo it. That's why using this button here, we gently move the gate until the point where we want it to stop when closed, also gently tensioning the whole system. With the UP button, we can adjust the position of the gate in either direction until it is exactly where we want it. We confirm with the set button. At this point, the operator will perform a confirming opening and closing of the gate so that we can also clearly see the points where we set the operator to stop. Press SETI. we have finished the process of programming the end positions of our gate. At this moment it is closed, so we can move on to the next step. Finally, after installing the operator and adjusting the end positions, especially the open position, you can install a safety stop like this, which will prevent the carriage from moving further in case, for example, the operator, due to a power outage or something similar, loses track of the end positions. This will protect the gate from the operator breaking the guides or mounts of the gate or mechanically damaging the gate, so that we don't accidentally damage it ourselves. We installed this limiter, which consists of 2 metal plates connected by 2 screws in such a way that the bent plate grips our guide from above here. It's slightly bent under the chain and the whole thing is tightened so that it can't move. Let's put it on now. After initially attaching the metal plates securely, we then carefully slide them progressively toward the very end of our carriage system and leave an appropriate precise gap, for example, approximately about 1 full centimeter. And then we tighten the screws. After setting the end positions for opening and closing the gate, we can move on to the next step, which in this case will be setting the force with which the gate should react to an obstacle, in case something from the outside tries to block it. To set the force, we use the set button, press and hold it until the number 3 appears on the display. Then release it. The value for parameter number 3 will immediately appear on the display, and we set this parameter to the lowest possible value at which the gate will still operate correctly. Operate, as you can see. I talked for too long and the controller exited programming mode, so let's enter it again. By default it's set to 5, let's lower it. On the controller we can activate or deactivate the photocell input. We enter the function to set this parameter by pressing the down button, hold it down until a middle dash appears on the display. When you release the button, the display will show whether the photocell function is active or inactive. The function is inactive when only the vertical segments are lit, from top to bottom. On the other hand, it is active when, in addition to those, the middle segment is also lit, which forms the letter H. You change the setting with the UP button and then confirm with the set button. So let's do that now. Hold down the down button until the middle line appears. Release it and you'll see what looks like 2 letter L's. Use the UP button to activate the photocell input. If you want to deactivate it, press the down button again and confirm with the set button. Since we don't have photocells installed at the moment, we'll leave this input deactivated, which means the system won't respond to the photocell input. An important note, if you use the auto-closing function, where the gate closes after a set period of time, then the photocells absolutely must be connected. The system also has an auto-closing function after a specified period of time. We can set this using the UP button. Hold it down until the middle dash appears on the display, followed by a numeric value. The symbol 0 means that the function is inactive. We can set the value in minutes using the UP button to increase the value up to 9, or the down button to decrease it down to 0. As I mentioned, 0 means the function is inactive. The other numbers represent the number of minutes after which the gate will close automatically. We don't want it to close automatically, so we leave it at 0. We confirm with the SET button.
program the remote using the code button. Press it briefly and then press it twice. The button on the remote. An important note, do not use the first button because it is reserved for other devices that might be in the system, such as a swing gate or a sliding entrance gate to the property. We have 3 other buttons to choose from, which we can program for this drive. Let's program our remote on the second button. The code button. The remote is now programmed. If we want to erase the remotes from the device's memory, we also do this with the button. Code, holding it down until the letter C appears on the display. At this point, the remote memory has been completely erased. As you saw, installing such an automatic system for a garage door is not a very complicated task. Simple tools and a bit of time are enough. I think it turned out really well. The system works quite efficiently and smoothly, above all. And the overall result we've achieved looks more or less like this. Finally, I'll show you how the overload protection works. It only took a very light touch for the system to react and reverse the gate. Even without using photocells, we can be almost completely sure that it won't do any serious damage to our car if we accidentally drive into the closing gate. That's all we had for you in this episode. Thank you for watching and for taking the time for us. Install the